welcome to this episode of Martial Truth, Self-Defense and the Law. Before we get started, I'll be interviewing Thomas Feldman, author of Itosu Anku and recent Yabukensu biographies, this coming Sunday. So next week we should have that to look forward to. Hope everybody enjoyed the Joe Swift interview. I enjoyed it. I like Joe a lot, and he has a lot to offer. We have the documentary is now out, the David Black documentary. So I'll send out a link to that so everybody can check that out if they want. And he was nice enough to put a little mention of the Martial Truth podcast in there. All right, that the name of the documentary is Eternal Warriors, about people coming back to the arts or beginning their training after the age of 50. Okay, and what that entails and some of the pitfalls and some of the positives. All right, so you can check that out too. Interesting little documentary put together. All right. Please click the like button, subscribe. All right. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscriptions. All right. And consider becoming a monthly member. All right. We're constantly putting up new content, a lot of instructional videos up there to help you with various martial arts and various things you work on. So consider doing that. All right. Let's talk about martial arts and the law. Okay. So I've tended, I don't even know how many seminars, but a lot, especially if it's karate or jiu-jitsu related or empty hand related, techniques are shown that cause another human being serious physical harm or even possibly death. Okay. And that's fine. That's what we're here for, right? We want to be able to defend ourselves. We want to be able to defend ourselves at a high level. But, I'll see an instructor teach a particular technique and say, oh yeah, this will definitely do this kind of damage, right? Which, that's questionable too, because you never know what kind of damage is going to happen until it happens, right? But, if you do this, this will take them out right away. Things to keep in mind is, what are the ramifications going to be if we actually use our training to defend ourselves in a real situation? And this is something that I don't see enough martial arts instructors address. I address it all the time in my dojo. Obviously, I'm a retired police officer, so I have certain insights into it. I think it's an important thing for martial arts instructors to know the laws within the state they are teaching in. Okay? So I'm going to talk generalities today, all right? Because I don't know where you are. Now, if you're in, let's say you're in a foreign country, well, you have to know the laws of your country, okay? If you don't know your laws, it's a problem, okay? You want to make sure you get up to date on them, all right? So what's the general rule of thumb if I use my martial skills? Okay. Well, the general rule is the reasonable man. Does this seem reasonable? Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, you defend yourself. The guy comes up, pokes you in the chest. Okay, so he's physically putting his hands on you, and you decide to knock him to the ground. And now he's on the ground, and he's got his hands up like this, and he's like, all right, I don't want any more trouble. And you proceed to follow up and stomp him or do some follow-up technique. Okay, so you went from having a reasonable response of knocking him to the ground because you were concerned for your life that he was putting his hands on you, to now you've gone over a boundary that maybe you didn't want to go over. Okay, so you disarm the guy with the knife. Now he's on the floor, right? And, you want to follow up, make sure you don't know if there's a second weapon. So you want to make sure that he's no longer a threat. But once he's no longer a threat, if you continue, maybe you decide you're going to bang his head into the floor. Maybe you're going to decide you're going to just keep stomping him on the head, kick him in the head, whatever. Okay. Is a jury going to look at that and say, well, that was reasonable? I mean, maybe they are. But I can tell you now, a lot of juries will not. So it's very important to stay in control and to understand the ramifications of what you potentially may have to do in a self-defense situation. So someone like myself, I carry a firearm all the time. All right. And usually I'm also carrying a knife. All right. That's just been doing it forever, my whole adult life. Okay. I carry it. All right. Luckily for me, never had to use my gun. All right. Never had to pull a trigger. All right. Have used the gun to stop things when I was a police officer. Drew my weapon and made criminals stop. All right. So, you know, I understand the ramifications if I do decide to use that firearm. All right. Ramification will be it'll cost anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000. That's why I have insurance. Okay. So that's something else to consider. If you live in an area where you think there's a good chance you may have to defend yourself, whether with empty hand or with a weapon, all right, it might be worth looking into one of the companies that offers self-defense insurance. So I have a USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association, and as long as I'm lawful and act within the law, I'm covered. Okay. They pay for my lawyer and everything else, and I won't have to worry about that $60,000 to $100,000 that I may have to lay out. All right. So something to consider. You can look. There's various companies. You can look them up. The cost is not prohibitive. Some states don't allow it. Okay. New York, you cannot get you cannot get that kind of insurance in New York. Typical New York, right? So. But it's a good idea to have. I have it, and my wife's also covered under the policy. So something to consider. All right. Keep in mind that if you do use your skill, all right, you're probably going to be a little amped up afterwards, especially if you've never experienced someone trying to actually do you serious physical harm or try to actually kill you. Okay. So again, we're not talking about the the fight where, it's just the two of you, you duke it out a little bit, you walk away, okay? We're talking about someone who is seriously trying to do you harm or take your life. And now you have to prevent them from doing it, okay? And now in preventing them from doing it, you've caused them serious physical injury or maybe death, okay? Now the police come, okay? So the police come. The police don't know you. They see a guy on the floor. Maybe he's a mess. Maybe there's blood around, right? They see you standing there, They don't know the situation. They may order you to get on the ground, okay? They may tell you to put your hands behind your back. They may handcuff you, okay? Just do what the police say. Don't fight them. Don't resist them, okay? Now, they're going to ask you what happened. What's your response going to be? Well, if you act like a crazy person and you're all over the place, right? No. You got to stay calm and say, this person here tried to take my property. This person here came up to me, attacked me, told me to give them all my stuff. I defended myself. And that's what happened. I protected my life. I was in fear of my life. Okay? You might be having some heart palpitations. You might feel a little banged up. You probably want to go to the hospital and get checked out, okay? And you want to state that I want that person arrested. The person's unconscious, dead, incapacitated, or whatever, I want him arrested. He attacked me. I defended myself. I want him arrested, okay? Now, if the police get there and you're screaming and cursing your head off and acting like a crazy person, because you're all amped up from this thing you were just in, and you're talking, okay, keep in mind that anything you say can be used against you, okay? So I've just given you the script. You keep it simple, okay? I'm not feeling well. I want to go to the hospital and get checked out. This person attacked me. This person came up to me and told me to give them my property. They tried to rob me. They tried to harm me, okay? I defended myself, all right? And that should be it, okay? Demand that the other guy gets arrested, go to the hospital, get checked out. From that point on, I think you probably want to get a lawyer, I wouldn't talk to the police. I was a police officer. Our job is to try to get you to say things that incriminate yourself. That's our job. If you don't like it, well, too bad. That's our job. All right. Again, how you're acting when the cops get there will go a long way to how you get treated. All right. I can tell you now, I was involved in several off-duty arrests. Okay. And, there's a certain way to act when the cops get there, especially maybe I'm holding guys at gunpoint, right? And now the uniformed guys get out. I'm in civilian clothes. They don't know who I am, right? So they may tell me, back off. I may have my shield in my hand to ID myself or whatever, but they don't know, all right? So, you're trained that if, even as a police officer, if they say to you, put the gun down and put your hands behind your back and they handcuff you, okay, right? Everything will work out, all right? Think about it for a second. The guy on the floor, do you think you're the first person he's probably tried to rob? Do you think the guy on the floor who you've just discombobulated during a self-defense situation, do you think he probably has an arrest record? He probably does. Now, if you're the good guy and, you don't have any arrest record and you've, lived a good, clean life, you're a family guy, you have a good job, and this will all come out. And this will weigh, obviously, in your favor. All right. So it's important. It's important to do this. Okay. Again, loose lips sink ships. So the police want to interview you. They want to talk to you. You may think, well, I did the right thing. I did the right thing. I'm good here. I'm 100% in the right. Okay, that's great. But the law may not look at you like that. So let's talk about a few things recently that's been in the news in the last year. All right. New York, where I lived for 56 years. I was a police officer there for 22. Okay. Guys harassing a group of people on a train, acting completely crazy. Guy grabs the guy, tries to subdue him, chokes him. The guy dies. Okay. So everybody on the train said they were afraid of the guy. All right. Alvin Bragg, the New York DA, right, who loves criminals, hates citizens, loves criminals. He indicts that guy, and now that guy's facing serious charges. Serious charges. Okay. I'm sure that young guy didn't wake up that day and said to himself, when I'm going to work on the train today, I think I'm going to choke somebody out and kill them. No. He was in a tough situation, in a dangerous place, right? Stuck on a train with a maniac, all right? And, we don't know what drugs were in that guy's system. We don't know. We don't know everything yet. It'll come out in trial. We'll see what happens, right? Hopefully, citizens of New York will find him not guilty, all right? But here's another one. Guy working in a bodega behind the counter. Guy comes in, wants some stuff for free. The guy tells him no, right? The guy comes behind the counter and starts attacking the old gentleman behind the counter. Big young guy, career criminal. Just thought I'd mention that, right? Same with the guy in the subway. Career criminal, serious mental health issues, okay? He attacks the bodega guy. The bodega guy pulls out a knife and stabs him and kills him. Okay. Who do they arrest? Right? They arrest the bodega guy. Meanwhile, the criminal who died, his girlfriend comes back and she goes to stab the bodega guy. And they never arrested her. Right? So they arrest the bodega guy. Now this poor guy's sitting in jail. Luckily, there was enough of an outcry that Alvin Bragg was shamed into releasing the bodega owner and dropping all the charges. Okay. Could have easily gone the other way for this guy. This guy's like in his late 50s, early 60s, okay? He's working in a bodega. I'm sure he's not a rich guy, okay? Can you imagine if he would have been brought up on charges and had to go to trial? I mean, his life is ruined. It's over, right? So instead of prosecuting the criminals, which is what a district attorney should do. Okay? No, let's be nice to the criminals. If we're nice to them, maybe they'll be nice to us. Forgetting that they're criminals. They have a criminal mentality. That's the way they are. Okay? So you're not going to change them. This idea that you're going to rehabilitate them, I can tell you now, that virtually never, ever happens. Okay? It's their nature. You can't change nature. The scorpion and the frog. So the scorpion and the frog are at the edge of a river. And they're going to cross. And the scorpion says to the frog, hey, could you carry me on your back and get me across the river? And the frog says, why would I do that? You're a scorpion. You might sting me. The scorpion says, why would I sting you? If I stung you, we'd both drown and die. So the frog says, okay. And he lets the scorpion jump on his back, and he starts swimming across the river with the scorpion. Halfway across, the scorpion stings him. And the frog says to the scorpion, why did you do that? Now we're both going to die. And the scorpion says, I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. I sting. Okay. Criminals are criminals. Changing their mentality is virtually impossible. Okay? The idea that you treat them with kid gloves and things get better, just look at New York, look at San Francisco, look at LA, look at all the major big cities, St. Louis. Terrible. Crime is rampant and out of control, and it's getting worse. And unless they enforce the laws, it's going to continue to get worse. And the sad thing is, if you defend yourself, chances are you're going to get arrested. So this is a problem. And forget about Europe. Okay, I've spent a lot of time in London. Love London. Love it. Okay? Love it. Okay? But guy can break into your house in London, and if you defend yourself, you're probably going to jail. Okay? So what's that? That's the definition of insanity. All right? I'm in my house, and someone breaks into my house, and I defend myself, and I go to jail. Okay? Wake up, Europe. That's all I'm going to say. Wake up. And certain states in this country need to wake up. Your citizens need to be put first, not criminals. That's the problem. Okay? All right? I mean, history shows us criminals are always going to exist. They're bad. Okay? They're bad for everyone. Okay? So if you're a good citizen dealing with a criminal, if you've been mugged, if you've been robbed, God forbid if you've been raped, violently assaulted, you know what it's like dealing with one of society's predators. All right. So it's very important that you discuss these things with your class, and you say, you know, like I'll teach a knife disarming technique, and then I'll watch someone disarm the knife. And the rule in the dojo is you never leave the knife in your attacker's hand. So even in the dojo, we're training. You know, you do the technique. You always end up with the knife in your hand. Now, if you do a technique and the knife goes flying out of his hand, well, you deal with him, and then you maybe try to get the knife, and that can happen. It definitely happened in combat, you know. But I watch sometimes people take the knife out of the guy's hand, and while he's on the floor, they start to repeatedly stab him. And then I look at them and go, okay, explain to me why you did that. And now they give me the look. Because they realize now, oh my God, I just became an unreasonable man, not the reasonable man. Now again, understand, you disarm the knife, you have the knife in your hand, right? And you disengage, and now the guy comes at you. Or maybe there's two guys and they both come at you. Can you use the knife? Yeah, I mean, you can use the knife. I mean, that's more reasonable, okay? The guy's on the floor, semi-conscious, not in good shape, and you decide to start stabbing him, not going to look good. And remember, in these times, there's cameras everywhere. There's cameras everywhere, all right? You know, instead of people trying to help or call 911 with their cell phone, they're busy taking videos so they can post them on TikTok, all right? This is what our society's become, all right? You know, just keep in mind, can't expect the police to save you. because they're not going to. It's going to happen before the police ever get there. It's on you. But if you do it, when you do it, you've got to be smart. Okay, so remember these things I'm telling you. You want to go to the hospital, get checked out. Make sure you're not hurt. You probably are hurt. Maybe heart palpitations. You might have strained yourself. Maybe the guy struck you and, hurt. Okay, all right. You keep it to a minimum. The guy came up to me, grabbed me, said, give me your money. Give me everything you have on you, okay? He said he was going to kill me. Give me your money or I'll kill you, right? I was frightened for my life. I defended myself, okay? I want a lawyer. End of discussion, okay? End of discussion, all right? And then, you can't afford one. Okay, well, one's provided for you, all right? Legal aid comes in. You sit there, discuss with legal aid, tell them what happened, all right? And then you go from there. And again, when you're dealing with the police, you want to stay calm. You don't want to be a raving lunatic. I couldn't tell you how many times I got to the scene of a situation, and there's multiple parties involved. And we're trying to interview, and, there's the one guy who's just going off, screaming, ranting, and raving, and we're trying to understand what's happening here, and this guy's just being a complete asshole, okay? And now we're trying to help everyone, but we're dealing with this guy who's totally out of control. And then when we get him to calm down, if he doesn't calm down, he keeps acting up and he keeps going crazy, well, what do? We're going to handcuff him. We're going to put you in handcuffs. And usually once we put the guy in handcuffs, all of a sudden his demeanor changes a little bit, okay? And again, I tell people all the time, no cop ever asked to be called to any scene. You're calling us to the scene, okay? So when you call us and we get there, act in a reasonable way. Don't act like an idiot, okay? Because again, you act like an idiot, how do you think you're going to be treated, okay? So I'll illustrate with a story. It took place in the Bronx. I don't remember the subway station, okay? I happened to be driving the duty captain that night, and the duty captain, he gets called out for anything citywide. So basically, as soon as we turned out, he said, Mike, we got to go up to the Bronx. Drove out to, I believe it was District 11, but it could have been District 12 in the transit police. We get there, and what we have is we have a young black male on the subway platform going to work. So he's in the cell, right? Okay. He's standing on a platform going to work, and there's two young black females standing a few feet away from him. And there's a group of about 6 black guys. So everyone's black, okay, that start harassing the females. So the females get closer to the single guy and say, hey, could you help us out here? These guys are scaring us. So the young guy says to the other guys, and he actually said this statement, I figured we were all black. I just asked him, listen, you're scaring the girls. Could you just leave them alone? You're scaring them. And that would be it. So that's what he asked them. He said, hey, come on, guys. You're scaring the girls. Just, why don't you just leave them alone, back off a little bit. And what do? The 6 guys attack him. They're real tough guys. The 6 guys go after him. Well, this young guy, on his way to work, he knows martial arts. So he starts defending himself. He's defending himself pretty good. What happens is 3 of them wind up on the tracks. So they're from the platform onto the tracks. So he's in the middle, and he's taking it to the 2 bad guys on the tracks. 2 of the 6. The other guys are still up on the platform. So now the young guy's on the tracks, and the one guy he's fighting yells up to the guy on the platform, you've got the gun, shoot him. The Good Samaritan, who's fighting the other 2 guys, says, oh my God, these guys are going to shoot me. He pulls out a knife and proceeds to stab his 2 assailants quick. Boom, boom. They're stabbed. The other criminal doesn't have a gun. Okay? So now the Good Samaritan just steps back because now no one's coming near him. He just took out 2 guys with a knife, and he was beating them up before that. And now the other 4 guys help their friends get up, and they leave. So, Good Samaritan goes to the token booth. He says, hi. He says, there was just a stabbing downstairs. So the token booth says, I'll call it in, but you might want to call 911. Payphones goes to 911. Right? Transit police get there, go up to the token booth. Where's the stabbing? And the token booth clerk points to the young guy by the phone. And the police officer walks over and says, where are you stabbed? He goes, oh, I'm not stabbed. I stabbed the guys. So the police officer says, what do you mean you stabbed the guys? And the guy tells him the story. Sadly, the two girls are in the wind. They're in the wind, so they're gone. But now the transit cop, familiar with the area, says to him, you stabbed two of them? Yeah. He goes, where'd they go? He said they fled upstairs. The transit cop knew there was a taxi stand upstairs. So he goes upstairs and he says to the taxi stand, hey, did you have guys come up here? Did you take anybody to the hospital? Oh, yeah, we had two guys. They were bleeding. We took them to the hospital. Oh, which hospital? Oh, this one. Okay. So now transit police car gets there. They put the Good Samaritan in. They go to the hospital. In the waiting room, there's the four guys. And he goes, oh, those are the four guys. Those are four of the guys. Those guys get arrested. And then the other two guys are in surgery. So he goes in and says, oh, yeah, those are the other guys. Okay, they all get arrested. So now the Good Samaritan's brought back to the precinct with the other four guys. And he's not under arrest, the Good Samaritan, but they got to run it by the district attorney. So they run everything by the district attorney, explain everything. And we're standing around waiting to see what the district attorney is going to do. And the duty captain basically is there to file a report on what the situation is. It's kind of a big incident, right? The district attorney says, we're not going to press charges at this time. We feel at this point he acted appropriately and was defending himself. Okay. Remember, 2-on-1. I know he stabbed the two guys, but it's 2-on-1. And technically it was 6-on-1. So, again, reasonable. Okay. So, I got a chance to talk to the young man. Lived with his grandmother. Great guy, right? Just, you could tell, right? I said, if you were going to work again and something like this happened, would you help the girls again? He said, yeah, but I don't think I'll carry a knife anymore. That's what he said. So I give him credit because he said he'd still help the girls, right? But he just began to think, well, is it worth carrying the knife, right? But on the other hand, you could look at it and say, well, if he didn't have the knife, maybe those 6 guys get the better of him and maybe he's dead. And luckily it all worked out for him and no charges were pressed. But I'm going back over 30 years ago. So this is a long time ago, all right? And there were plenty of other times where we saw people, defend themselves and come out on top. And, the criminal went to jail. But now we live in an era, especially if you're living in certain types of cities, all right, where you could be 100% in the right and they are still going to arrest you. So watch what you say. Know the laws in your state. If you're a martial arts instructor, you need to explain these things to your students. Don't just say, oh, yeah, now you stomp on his head 5 times, okay, and the fight's over. Okay, were you justified in stomping on his head 5 times? All right? Again, I'm all for the rah-rah, let's fight, let's eliminate the enemy thing. Okay, but we got to use common sense. We're the good guys. We got to be smarter. And martial arts instructors, part of your job is to not just teach people how to harm them. It's to teach the when and the why and the what happens if you have to defend yourself. All right? So please think long and hard on this subject. It's an important one. All right? I look forward to your comments. All right? Again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please click the like, subscribe button, share it. All right? We'll have some more interviews coming up and get back to some of the how-to martial truths in the near future. And check out David Black's documentary, Eternal Warriors. Like I said, I'll send a link out for the members and all the subscribers on the channel to check it out. All right? Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.